on close. About 9 minutes left. See if the Russell can put on another 10 points. What's that after how much it's already run? Joining me, Joe Mazzola, Director of Derivatives Trading and Trading Strategist, at Charles Schwab, and Lizanne Sonders, Chief Investment Strategist at Charles Schwab. Afternoon. Great to have you guys here. A big day. Market's going kind of crazy. I just want to say, Lizanne, go. Give me your take here on the session.
Obviously, the inflation numbers were terrific. I think the Fed is probably dancing a bit of a jig here. And at the lowest point, yields, at least in the case of the 10-year, had dropped by about 12 basis points, and that was enough. And you've seen it in days like this in the past, where you've gotten a big move down in yields, or you've got a more benign inflation reading. You get a pop in small gaps, maybe some more sustainability this time, because it's just how extreme the concentration has gotten. So I think it's a day that fans of Goldilocks and doves on the Fed can be cheering for.
Yeah. Market solidifying around September. Still no July, though, Joe. Hearing a lot of calls for it, but I think that's mostly from people who just kind of want to get ahead of a recession and then say, I told you the Fed should have cut in July.
Yeah, we're well above 80% probability for September. I think that's where, people are forecasting they're going to go. But one thing that's really interesting, Oliver, with today's market is just the churn below the surface. I know Lizanne's touched on this many times in the past, but this idea that, the equal weight today is up 1.3%, while the S&P 500 is down 0.8%. Or if you look at something like this, advancers versus decliners, 8-to-1 advancers to decliners, while the S&P is down. So just big major movements below the surface, really showing some big rotations that we're seeing today.
Lizanne, how sustainable is this degree of spread? 5 percentage points, like the widest NASDAQ Russell spread in 4 years?
Yeah, maybe not on an every single day basis. And I think we're going to see trends change potentially in fits and starts. But there's a disorder that sadly affects a lot of children, but it's called oppositional defiant disorder, ODD for short. And I've seen from our friends at Sentiment Trader attach that label to what's going on in the market. And Joe pointed out, rightly so. And you've had these days, not just on the upside where you get index gains that are significant, you don't get anywhere near the same kind of participation under the surface as measured by traditional moving average breadth measures or advanced decline, but it's also been happening in acute form on down days where you see these bigger index decline days, but much better breadth under the surface. And I made the comment on a call yesterday where it wouldn't surprise me to continue to see this, where you get some convergence that starts to correct some of this concentration risk, meaning you see profit taking up the cap spectrum into the high flyers, but you get better participation. It's sort of the bull market version of what happened back in October of 2022, when we now know that the benefit of hindsight, the market bottomed, at which point indexes were taking out their June low on the downside, but breadth under the surface had been improving. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more bouts like today, but maybe not to this significant and extreme.
Okay, and I'm going to come back to that, but first I just want to hit some of the volatility stuff for a second, Joe. Yesterday we saw VIX up, stocks up, kind of like one of those things that shows markets getting frothy, getting a little aggressive, getting a little speculative. What do you look for here as kind of the signs from the derivatives market over the next week?
Yeah, the VIX hasn't really done much today, which is a bit odd. I think you need to maybe look at the VIX-N, right, which is the VIX on the Qs or the VIX on the NASDAQ. You've seen some movement there. I think a lot of it has a little bit more to do with, where the option trading is participating. And, we've talked for a while, Oliver, about a lot of that upside call buying and how it kind of pushed skews in a direction that showed that everybody kind of had this trade on the same way. And when you have a day like today where things start to unravel, at least in the tech sector, not only do you see, the equities go down, but you're also going to see some of that skew trade unwind as well, too. I think that's what we're seeing today.
Okay. Lizanne, to come back to the rotation subject for just a moment, given the emphasis on quality trades on the equity strategy side that you've been talking to us about for years, the thing that's been a great trade that's been alongside momentum. Today is like the market saying you're in the clear to go to the even riskier stuff. What do you think about that?
Not necessarily. You may get pops of it on a single day or a couple day basis, but I think the quality trade is still the way to go, even within smaller cap indexes. And admittedly, we're just talking about one day, but if you look at the past year, the Russell 2000 over the past year, this is not year to date, but rolling past year, is up about 6%. Profitable stocks are up 12%. Non-profitable stocks are down about 6%. So talking about an 18 percentage point spread. You can also break it into zombies versus non-zombies, and you see a similarly wide spread. Even with indexes like the S&P, you look at strong balance sheet versus weak balance sheet, huge outperformance. Now, you're going to get these knee-jerk reactions where maybe there's a bid down the quality spectrum, but I don't think we're at the point in the cycle where low quality works consistently well. That happens typically when you're coming out of a recession. You've got a significant amount of leverage built into those low quality stocks to a significant upturn in the economy. Maybe it's obvious, but I don't think we're at that point in the cycle. So stay up in quality.
Okay. You do agree that's kind of what the market, though, is doing today, right? It's like going into the dumpster bin, basically, as far as like a quality characteristic standpoint, all that stuff. So, all right, love it. Good reminder here of kind of how to stay the course and keep the perspective. Appreciate the conversation, guys. Really nice work, Lisanne Sonders, Joe Mazzola.